Hi everyone, for my tool I decided to use the Flipgrid and I absolutely love Flipgrid. I've used this in my classroom several times this school year and I teach second grade and I also know that teachers in sixth grade in our school have used this tool. So it is a tool that can be used with many different ages and many different grade levels. Flipgrid is a tool that we can use for students to videotape themselves and then post it to a discussion board. And when it's been posted to that discussion board, students can comment on each other and they can post emojis about their feelings about the video and things along those lines. So it is heavily emphasized with their social interactions. And I think that's really shown right on the front of their page of their website because it says where social learning happens. So right there is kind of the introduction to show you that this tool is great for that social presence model. Down here is where your students will enter flip code. So if they go to flipgrid.com, you will give them a code and this is where they will put that code, and then that way they can be on the correct discussion board and that they're responding to the right things that you want them to be talking about. So I'm going to show you quickly. This is a free program, so which is absolutely amazing. We love free things as teachers, and it's totally easy access for your students to go to as well. All they do is go to flipgrid.com. I'm going to log in here. That way you can see the teacher side of Flipgrid. Okay, so this is my homepage, my grid. Each grid represents a class. So I have a class of second grade students, so I only need one grid. But if I were maybe to teach high school where I would have several classes, I would have more than one grid. So I am clicking on my class, and here are some assignments that I have made or new topics. This was an assignment for introduction, so I had an idea that my students could create a Flipgrid to just introduce themselves to the class, to say a little bit about themselves, and then their classmates would watch those videos, of course. This was something that we actually did in my classroom, was the presidential motivational speeches. So each student was assigned a project where they had to have the mindset that they were president for a week, and they had to think about things that they would do in our country and what positive changes that they would make. So after they'd done that research, they then gave a speech and they said what they would tell other people to do to make the world a better place. So each of them created a speech, they wrote it, and then they took a video themselves, as you can see here, and then they posted it. And this was so awesome, not only because each student was able to watch each video. You can download videos off of Flipgrid and save them, and I actually sent them to our technology department, and they played them on the morning announcements for our whole entire school. So this is just such a great tool to use. I absolutely love Flipgrid. It is very simple, but you can do so much different things with it. It's just fantastic. I'm going to talk now about our social presence model. So the very first part is the affective association. So those emotions, do students, are they able to share their feelings and their emotions? And I think that's pretty evident when students are able to post their emojis. So you're able to see right away how they feel. I also thought that this tool could be great to use as a morning check-in. Our school is really heavily learning more about social emotional learning and the responsive classroom theory and techniques. And I think that this could be a really great way for students in the morning to come to school. They could do a Flipgrid about how they're feeling that day just to check in, and then the teacher can kind of see it, and also their peers can see it. I think so often we think that teachers need to know how their students are feeling, but I also think it's important that their classmates know, and that they can learn more about each other, and then they can know, this person might not be seeming too happy today, but doesn't mean they're in a bad mood or they're a bad person. They actually are feeling a certain way about something. So I thought this could be a great tool for that. The next element is the community cohesion. So again, this is a way for all of them to feel like they belong together in one community. If you log onto the webpage, right there, they're all together on the same page. And if you would scroll, you would see every one of your classmates. And when you're posting and you're especially at the beginning of the school year, if you're doing introduction videos, they're learning more about each other, and that's just being part of their classroom community. The next part here is the interaction intensity. So students on Flipgrid are constantly communicating with one another. They are posting comments on each other's videos. They are watching people communicate to them. So I think it really hits that part of, them interacting often, very often. The next part is their knowledge and experience, and I kind of took that into two different parts. Their knowledge and prior knowledge of specific content, and then their technology experience. I maybe spent 10 minutes introducing Flipgrid to my second grade students, and they caught onto it right away. It is a very simple tool that anybody with a little bit of technology experience will be able to do so. All they really have to know how to do is press play and stop and be able to type some comments to their peers. Content-wise, I absolutely love this tool in ways for students to teach their peers about information. A lot of students come to school with different background knowledge, and I think that if they were able to learn from their peers, that they would really have a good connection with that student and really learn from them. And I know that sometimes students are reluctant to ask their teacher questions, so this would be a great way for them to ask their peers questions because it's not as scary to ask, especially at the beginning of the school year. And the last one is instructor involvement, and I put a quote in here from our article that we read that says 91% of students identified instructor involvement as being very important to their success. And I think no doubt that in my classroom, even though I'm face-to-face, my relationships with my students are the reason that they learn from me. If my students didn't trust me, if I wasn't involved in their learning, then they probably wouldn't learn as much. So same thing goes for learning online. And I know that pretty much every resource we've read lately talks about how teaching online and building relationships with your students is much more difficult because obviously you're not face-to-face. So I think it's really important that if you are using Flipgrid, that you create responses as well. So if it's the beginning of the school year and your students are introducing themselves, you are also doing the same thing. And especially throughout assignments, that you are commenting on different students' creations, and you are posting emojis about how much you enjoyed their video and things like that for your students to know that you are involved. The other part here is from Making the Move to K-12 Online Teaching from that table 5.3 in chapter 5. So the first one is shared resource. So I thought Flipgrid was a great shared resource because it would be fantastic for an icebreaker. The next one is for brainstorming, and again, students could just take videos of themselves thinking out loud about what it is that they're thinking and the different areas, and then they can watch from their peers and get different ideas. So especially if you're doing a writing activity, maybe you're writing about a personal narrative or an opinion piece, and then they're kind of taking a video of them just thinking out loud. Your peers can click on and get some ideas for their own writing, which I think would be awesome. The next one is reflection. Flipgrid could be definitely used as a blog. Your students could just talk, and if you wanted to use blogging as something that you want to try in your classroom one year, as your students should be blogging weekly about something that they learned or even their feelings, this could be a fantastic way to do it with Flipgrid. The next one is outreach and authentic. Flipgrid has this option up here where you are able to reach out to other students, and in the book it said about how outreach and authentic really has to deal with communicating classroom to classroom. So if I go to Flipgrid and I click on mixtapes, this is, I meant Disco Library. This is where I can click on different topics that other teachers have posted around the world, and I can click on them and learn a little bit more about them. But then this one here is for GridPal. So you can connect with different educators who are using Flipgrid all around the world. And you can connect with them, learn with them that are even in the same grade and subject as you. And it just shows you a map of all the different grades that are using and schools that are using Flipgrid all over just our country. So like the first one here is from England. So I think that it's really exciting and a great way to connect with other people all around the world. The next one is problem solving. I think that if your students are working in a group, this is a great way for them to have a discussion forum by just communicating face-to-face. I think that so many times when we are discussing things with peers or even colleagues and we tend to just email or we tend to just chat, things can be miscued. So I will always say for forever that face-to-face communication and seeing someone's body language is the most important thing. And you will truly learn more about a situation, about a person when you speak face-to-face. So if you're problem solving and working through something with a group of yours, and maybe you're doing a group project, this would be a great place for them to discuss those things. The next one is a product development. So like I said earlier, Flipgrid can be used for so many different ideas and so many different projects. So like I said, in my classroom, I used it for speeches. I also thought you could use it for a reader's theater experience. It's not like one person has to be the only person in the camera. Other students can also be in that video. You could use it for fluency practice. So your students could read a story on Flipgrid and then replay it back to themselves to see if they were reading nice and smoothly. Or the teacher could even do a read aloud and students could follow along through that, making sure that they're reading at a nice pace. I also thought it was a great idea if you were studying different historical figures and maybe each person has a different historical figure or each group has a different historical figure and they've researched them, then they posted a video of all their findings. And then you can allow your students to learn from all of their peers. So there is so many different things that you can create with this. I think it really allows for your students to have a way to present information in front of a class without so much pressure because they can stop, they can start over as much as they want, and they're free to make mistakes, which we have learned is just so important that students know mistakes are okay to do. And the last part I included was to demonstrate mastery. So again, this would be a great tool for students to use if they want to give speeches, if they want to present information, even if they wanted to have a debate. They could, speak their point of view back and forth, and they could comment on their peers' ideas. So this is Flipgrid. I really hope that you try this in your own classroom. I absolutely love it. It is super, super easy. I would totally show you one of my students' videos, but just for privacy reasons, obviously I can't. But I really think that you should try to use this in your classroom. Okay, thank you so much. I hope you learned something from this.